I'm not apologizing to you for nothing.
But so, Bill Russell's family.
But Bill Russell's family,
right.
I will apologize because that might have came off insensitive in the heat of the moment. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I got a lot of love and a lot of respect for Bill Russell. So as a man, if I came off wrong, I apologize. You boss. Let's get started.
Bill Russell was called a bad MF by the men who feared him most. But that fear was not about basketball alone. It was personal. It was raw. It was hate. The greatest winner in NBA history was also the man everyone around him could not forgive. His teammates stayed silent while he suffered. His rivals turned their backs for 2 decades. His broadcast partners threw racial slurs at him on national television. And even in death, current players felt the need to curse his name. This is not a story of appreciation. This is not a celebration. This is the story of the 5 men who hated Bill Russell and why they could not escape the weight of their own guilt. These are the legends who loved him and despised him. These are the men whose names are forever tied to Russell's legacy through disrespect, betrayal, and shame. If you are loving how wild this story gets, go ahead and give this video some hype. It helps more fans discover just how complicated greatness really is. Because once you understand why they hated him, you will understand why he mattered so much. Bill Russell won 11 championships in 13 seasons. He was the first black superstar in a league that wanted him gone. He faced death threats in Boston. He had his home broken into. Vandals left feces in his bed. Russell survived all of it with his head held high. He never looked back. He never showed any weakness. He never flinched. But surviving came at a deep and lasting cost. He built walls around his heart. He learned to weaponize silence. He became unforgiving. And the men closest to him felt the sting of that armor more than anyone. The first man to feel it was Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt was not just Russell's rival. For most of their playing days, he was Russell's friend. They stayed in each other's homes. They broke bread together. They shared the unique pain of being black giants in a white country. Wilt later said that Russell was the only player he truly feared. Russell admitted that Chamberlain was the only peer he ever had. Their friendship was real, but it was fragile. It was built on competition, and competition eventually broke it. In 1969, the Celtics and Lakers met in the NBA Finals. The Lakers had assembled a super team with Chamberlain, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor. The Celtics were old. They were tired. Everyone expected Los Angeles to win, but this was Game 7, and this was Russell's final basketball game. With 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Wilt grabbed a rebound and came down hard. His knee buckled. He limped. He tried to stay in the game. He could not. He asked his coach to put him back in. The coach refused. The Celtics won 108-106. Russell had his 11th ring. Chamberlain had his pain. But the pain was not just physical. After the game, Russell went on a lecture tour. He gave speeches about basketball. He talked about winning. And then he said something that would destroy his friendship with Wilt. Russell told the crowds that a player of Chamberlain's magnitude should never leave a Game 7 unless he had a broken leg or a broken back. Russell was saying that Wilt quit. Russell was saying his friend lacked toughness. Russell was saying Wilt was a loser. To Chamberlain, this was the ultimate betrayal. Wilt's knee injury was real. Medical staff examined it and found significant trauma, but Russell did not know that. Or maybe he did not care. What Wilt heard was that his best friend had weaponized the media against him. What Wilt felt was that Russell had attacked his character, his masculinity, and his professional integrity. Wilt said in an angry interview after the finals, "I can just read it now how everyone is going to blame me for this loss." His voice was broken. His pride was shattered. For more than 20 years, they did not speak. The silence was absolute. They crossed paths at events and looked away. They were in the same room and pretended the other did not exist. The Cold War between Russell and Chamberlain became NBA lore. It was a tragedy. 2 men who loved each other separated by the unforgiving nature of competition and ego. 20 years is a long time to hold a grudge. It is a long time to let pride win. The thaw began in the early 1990s. Both men were in their 60s now. Death was no longer theoretical. It was coming. A magazine called Men's Journal scheduled an interview with both of them. They called it The Summit. In that meeting, Russell offered an apology. He admitted he was wrong. He said he did not know the severity of Wilt's injury. Chamberlain, who always acted tough but was sensitive underneath, accepted. The reconciliation was genuine. By 1997, they appeared on television together. They laughed and reminisced like old friends. Russell's iconic cackle filled the room. They talked about defending Shaq in the modern era. Russell said he would use agility to neutralize power. Wilt claimed he would average 60 or 70 points. They were friends again. In Chamberlain's final years, they spoke weekly. When Wilt died in 1999, Russell said he lost a part of his own soul. But that reconciliation came after 20 years of suffering. It came too late. The second man to experience Russell's unforgiving nature was Rick Barry. Rick Barry was a Hall of Famer. He was also a jerk. He was arrogant. He was provocative. He made people uncomfortable. By 1981, Barry had transitioned into broadcasting. He worked for CBS alongside a play-by-play announcer named Gary Bender and Bill Russell. The pairing of Barry and Russell was volatile from the start. Russell was a man of immense dignity. He had no patience for foolishness. He especially had no patience for anything touching race. During Game 5 of the 1981 NBA Finals, the broadcast team was filling time. A producer displayed an old black-and-white photograph of young Bill Russell from the 1956 Olympics. Russell was smiling. It was a rare sight. Russell was known for his intense game face. Rick Barry looked at that photo and made a joke. He said it looked like some fool over there with that big watermelon grin. The comment was catastrophic. The watermelon stereotype is one of the oldest and most pernicious racist tropes in American history. It goes back to the 1800s. It was used in minstrel shows to paint black people as simple-minded and lazy and grotesque. Barry was using this slur on national television. Barry was using this slur about Bill Russell. Russell had faced death threats in Boston. He had vandals break into his home. He had feces left in his bed by racists. And now his broadcast partner was throwing slurs at him on live television. Russell did not shout. He did not explode. He did what he always did. He withdrew. Video footage shows Russell turning his body away from Barry. His face went stone cold. For the rest of the game, he refused to engage. When Barry tried to make light of things, Russell shut him down. One-word answers. Silence. Total silence. It was the most awkward moment in sports broadcasting history. Russell's silence was a form of protest. He was refusing to validate Barry's presence. He was stripping Barry of the camaraderie that makes broadcasts work. Rick Barry later claimed he did not know the racial connotations of the watermelon phrase. He said it was ignorance, not malice. He offered an apology. Russell accepted publicly, but the relationship was poisoned. The warmth was gone. If there ever was any warmth, it was gone now. The incident reinforced Russell's worldview. He was operating in a hostile environment, even when wearing a suit and headset, even when surrounded by colleagues. The hate was always there. It was just hiding behind a smile sometimes. The third man to disrespect Russell came decades later. His name was J.J. Redick. Redick was a modern NBA analyst. He used advanced statistics to deconstruct old-school basketball myths. In 2020, Redick was on ESPN's First Take, discussing the greatest point guards of all time. He dismissed the era of Bill Russell and Bob Cousy. He said modern players were vastly superior in skill and athleticism. He said Russell and Cousy played against plumbers and firemen. That was his exact phrase, plumbers and firemen. The argument was that the NBA was smaller back then. It had only 8 to 14 teams. The athletes were not full-time professionals. They did not have modern nutrition and training. Their records were inflated. Their championships did not count the same. Bill Russell's 11 rings were basically worthless. That is what Redick was saying. He was erasing Russell's dominance. He was erasing the foundation upon which the modern NBA was built. But Russell did not just beat plumbers and firemen. He consistently beat Wilt Chamberlain. He beat Oscar Robertson. He beat Elgin Baylor. He beat Jerry West. He beat the greatest players that era could produce. To dismiss them as lesser is to ignore history. To ignore history is to disrespect the pioneers who built the game. Redick's comment sparked outrage. It was an intellectual hate. It was a dismissal disguised as analytics. The response came from Jerry West. Jerry West was the NBA logo. Jerry West was a contemporary of Russell. West was visibly angered by Redick's comments. He dismantled the plumber's argument with historical fact and personal disdain. West explained that players did have summer jobs, but that was not because they were unskilled. It was because the NBA did not pay enough. In his best earning year, West made roughly $90,000. Redick made $12 million in his peak season. That was not a lack of talent. That was a lack of infrastructure. West went further. He attacked Redick's credentials. He said, "Tell me what his career looked like. He averaged 12 points a game. JJ was not going to guard elite players. The only reason I am talking about him is because he was not elite." West defended Russell, but Russell still had to hear himself dismissed, still had to prove his victories counted. The fourth man to wrong Russell was Bob Cousy. Cousy was Russell's teammate and the flashy ball handler. Russell was the defensive anchor. Together they built the Celtics dynasty. On the court, they were symbiotic. Off the court, short, they were distant. Cousy was white and from New York. Russell was black and from the segregated South. They existed in different worlds within the same locker room. During the 1950s and 60s, Bill Russell faced relentless racism in Boston. Restaurants denied him service, fans abused him. When he tried to move his family to a white suburb, a petition was started to keep him out. Vandals broke into his home. They smashed his trophies. They defecated in his bed. Through all of it, his white teammates stayed silent. Bob Cousy stayed silent. Cousy played with Russell. Cousy celebrated championships with Russell. Cousy did not publicly stand up for Russell against the racism of the city. Later, Cousy admitted he was blind to Russell's pain. He said he viewed himself as a basketball player, not a social activist. He retreated into the comfort of his own privilege. For Russell, this silence was a form of passive disrespect. It was a wound that never healed. It was not until 2018, when Cousy was 90 years old, that he tried to address the wound. Cousy wrote a handwritten letter to Bill Russell. He apologized for his cowardice during their playing days. He admitted he had failed Russell by not speaking out. He asked for forgiveness for his silence. It was a moment of vulnerability for a man of Cousy's generation. He did not make excuses. He did not blame the era. He owned his failure completely. Russell's response was characteristically brief. He said, "Yes, I did. Thank you." He did not offer absolution. He did not reject the apology. He simply acknowledged it. Russell had built armor around his heart to survive the trauma of racism. He was not the type to engage in performative forgiveness, but the fact that Cousy sent the letter and Russell acknowledged it brought some closure to 50 years of silence. 50 years is a long time to wait for someone to say sorry. It is a long time to carry that weight alone. The fifth and final man to hate Russell was Udonis Haslem. Haslem is the embodiment of Heat culture. He is tough. He is loyal. He is fiercely protective of his team. Having played 20 seasons for the Miami Heat, he developed a deep-seated hatred for the Boston Celtics. The Celtics and Heat are fierce rivals. Hatred between them is tribal and complete. In 2023, on his podcast The OGs, Haslem was discussing the rivalry with a former teammate named Mike Miller. The conversation turned to the NBA's decision to retire Bill Russell's number 6 across the entire league following Russell's death. Haslem, caught up in his anti-Celtic sentiment, said, "Thought yous Bill Russell." He said this on his podcast. He said this on a platform with thousands of listeners. The backlash was swift. Fans and pundits accused Haslem of desecrating the memory of a civil rights icon. Haslem tried to explain himself. He said his animosity was not toward Russell the man. It was toward the sight of the Celtics jersey hanging in Miami's arena. He said, "I love Bill. No disrespect to Bill. It is just why the fuckinks does he have to hang in here?" To Haslem, seeing the number 6 retired in Miami was a visual intrusion of the enemy. It was a tribal reaction. But to the wider world, cursing Bill Russell was shocking. It was disrespectful. It was a breach of decorum made worse by the timing. Russell had just died. His body was barely cold. And a current player was cursing his name on a podcast. Haslem issued a clarification that was as defiant as it was apologetic. He refused to apologize to Celtics fans. He said, "The Boston people, y'all got a better chance of wrestling an alligator. I am not apologizing to you for nothing." But he did offer a sincere apology to Russell's family. He said, "Bill Russell's family, I will apologize because that might have come off as insensitive in the heat of the moment, but I got a lot of love and respect for Bill Russell." This conflict illustrates something important. Russell is both a universal icon of civil rights and the eternal symbol of the Boston Celtics. For a rival like Haslem, separating the two is impossible. The hatred for the Celtics is so consuming that it spilled over onto the man who built the dynasty. Even in death, Russell could not escape the complications of his own legacy. Every form of hate Russell faced reveals something about the person hating him. Wilt's betrayal showed how competition poisons friendship. Barry's slur showed how casual racism hid inside corporate environments. Riddick's dismissal showed how the present assumes superiority over the past. Cousy's silence showed how privilege blinds people to suffering. Haslem's profanity showed how tribalism overrides reverence for pioneers. Each man revealed his own flaws by hating Russell. But here is the thing about Bill Russell. He did not compromise his principles to make any of these men comfortable. He would not compromise his team's success to spare Wilt's feelings. He would not compromise his dignity to laugh at Barry's joke. He would not compromise his truth to comfort Cousy's guilt. He would not pretend to understand Reddick's analytics. He would not forgive on demand. He stood by himself. He stood alone, and he remained standing. Wilt Chamberlain died wishing he could have one more phone call with Russell. Bob Cousy spent his final days wishing he had done more. Jerry West spent years defending Russell's honor against modern critics. Even Udonis Haslem, in his defiance, had to bow to Russell's family. emotionally. Bill Russell absorbed all of it. The jealousy, the racism, the silence, the dismissal. He absorbed it and remained standing. The conflicts here are scars. They prove he was in the fight. He was the foundation of the NBA. He broke the barriers. He was the pioneer who paid the price. Maybe everyone hated Bill Russell because he forced them to see who they really truly were. And in the end, they could not forgive him for that mirror.